All right. Well, apparently I'm live, so fingers crossed. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. I'm glad you were able to follow me along. Sorry about that. Oh, boy. So, sometimes it's all great when the tech works, right? Sometimes it doesn't, but you're a trooper. So now you can get back to some gel plate printing and not have to monitor your machine all the time. Hopefully my internet will just behave now. I'm not convinced because I had trouble starting the stream, and then I had this message about unstable internet. So I'm half an hour in and I made like 3 cuts. Now, of course, part of it was intro, but oh boy, when you have trouble with the tech and you have to solve that as well, it's just fortunately I don't stress out too much, but it's not ideal. Let's just put it that way. Inevitably, I lose some people who don't know how to find the second stream. So I'm glad you were able to. And I don't think we actually have a lot of people on today because whenever I do it on a Tuesday, not as many people join because it's a Monday thing. So fortunately, we'll be back on Monday in 2 weeks' time, so that's good. Yeah, looking forward to that. All right. I'm going to start by maybe taking some of the negatives out. I don't know what's considered negative or positive here. I think these are negatives, though. And for this one. And then I'll just see where we go. So, Lisa, I know you're working, so don't feel obliged to answer. But hey, Janice, hello, yay! I'm glad you found us. Sorry about the tech issues. I don't know if you were with us for the first part, but tech grief. Lisa, let me know if you can spare the typing time. If how you use gel plate prints, like do you collage with them? Do you make gel plate prints for? Do you do images? Do you do abstract? Do you do some of both? Do you do image transfers? There are so many ways you can use them. Do you texturize them? Do you use like natural things like leaves as masks? Do you cut stencils? One of the things I love working with is hand cut stencils with my gel plate. I did a workshop. Wow, I guess it's probably a couple years ago now, but called type abstractions with gel plate prints, where we used typographic shapes like letters and numbers and so on as to compose with. And I don't know, that's kind of niche, I guess, but type shapes are so great that I mean, why not use them, right? So, and just being an artist who really likes their knife skills, that's why part of the reason I think why I'm drawn to making stencils for gel plate printing. And in fact, I was just thinking, right, I'm cutting out some shapes, and I could use this as a mask for gel. It's right off the camera. Sorry, guys. I could use this as a gel plate print stencil too. So that'd be kind of fun. These are kind of like, because these stripes are so graphic, they're kind of like they're sort of semi-abstract, right? You might recognize them as road stripes, but you might not, especially if they're printed in different colors, right? So all right, so Lisa says, I haven't mastered image transfer. Yeah, image transfer is tough for sure. I know Kim has done some workshops on it, and it can be very finicky. Sometimes you can get great results. Sometimes it's like very disappointing. So yeah, I like using natural things. Yeah, leaves and flowers, make my own texture plates. Yep, and simple stamp designs with circles. Also have regular stencils I use. Yeah, kind of a magpie, I bet is the word you were thinking of. And oh, Janice, I'm sorry to hear that you have the flu. That's a drag. Yeah. So hopefully you're comfortable, you're relaxing, you've got some hot chicken stock or equivalent nearby, and I hope you feel better soon, because yeah, that sucks. Especially in spring, right? I mean, you just want to get outside, right? And then, oh man, you're sick, right? It's kind of like getting sick in the summer. Well, it's not as bad as getting sick in the summer, but I guess spring and fall, or well, winter too. Yeah, I don't know. Summer is one of the only months where you don't the odds go down, I guess. So I guess if you sort of divide the year into times when we spend more time indoors and outdoors, that's probably the single biggest factor. Oh, this post with these different signs on it is awesome. Like, it's going to be such an interesting shape. It's just very low. It's very low contrast, so it's kind of hard to tell where the background begins and the sign ends, but only in a couple of spots. Actually, the rest is okay. And I can just about figure it out, so. So I'm pretty sure this is in Japan, but I'm not absolutely positive. Actually, the more I think about it, the more I'm pretty sure it is. So, not that I read their characters, but it does look like it. So did anyone do anything fun for Easter? Ours was pretty low key. I made Easter dinner, but not. I always take it relatively easy with holiday meals nowadays. But we had it with Kim's mom, which means there are only 4 of us, but that's fine. That's about that's a number I can just about manage cooking for. So we bought a leg of lamb that cost us it cost us more than a leg. It cost us an arm and a leg. So that's a once a year thing, boy, at the price of red meat these days. And we don't actually eat much red meat anymore, but lamb is such a treat when you do have it. And I made a version of scalloped potatoes, which I don't think I've ever made scalloped potatoes. My mom made them when I was growing up, and I really loved them. I mean, what's not to love, right? So, but when I started looking at the recipe, I thought, oh my God, that's like really unhealthy. So I found a healthier version without using like cream. It still had plenty of cheese and olive oil, but so a little healthier, and it was pretty good. It wasn't. I never taste the food I make as well. Like, it never tastes as good if I make it. But it was okay, and other people liked it. So, yeah, and then just like simple veg. So, what did you guys do? Did you go anywhere? Did you have a special meal? Did you do it with family? Did you travel? All right. So it occurs to me that because I've cut out all these pieces, that I need something to put them on. And I'm just looking. There's an option like right on top of each other. That's kind of fun, isn't it? Like just juxtaposing them or having like a chatter. It's not enough. I want to shoot some bright color in, but it's always fun to see options along the way in your process. So, but I think this I can't ignore. Wow, so the camera is really not showing these as the colors they are. I think it might be because I've got the window open, but this is fluorescent lime, and it really doesn't look fluorescent lime. So it looks like kind of a nice sort of muted celery for you guys. I'm sorry. That's awful. Or maybe I set the camera wrong somehow. This because I know I've seen the colors come across as brighter than that in times past. So this today just seems to be an uphill tech day, doesn't it? So I will not let it stop me. I will not let it bother me unduly. So now it's just a case of what color or colors do I like with black and white. Pink is always a good one, like for a fluorescent pink. Not that you'll see it as such, but oh. There we go. All right. So maybe I'll do one of each. I'll cut rectangles that are the right size, and using this one that I haven't cut yet as a template, and go from there. And I will check in with your comments in a couple minutes. Just getting making a little hay first. I will cut these two sheets out, and then we'll go from. I'll check comments. Sorry, I'm working down off camera again. So, Jane, if you've made it across to our second stream and you are not losing your mind with organization, who's the birthday party for? Is it one of your sons? And what's on the menu if you're with us? All right, got those cut out. Check in the comments. Lisa says to continue her other comment, I'm an anything goes kind of person. I've used them in collage and wrapping paper. Yeah, wrapping paper is a great use for gel plate prints and also abstract work. Yeah. Janice said, would love some sun. Yes, but love seeing Collage Jam too. Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for, hopefully you can nip out afterwards, and it looks like it's still going to be sunny afterwards. So Janice says, wouldn't have an idea how to cook a leg of lamb. Well, actually, so this was a butterflied leg of lamb, which means the bone is taken out and then it's kind of spread out, because I was hoping to barbecue it. Kim's mom's condo has barbecues on the roof, but they haven't got them up and running yet, unfortunately. So leg of lamb, like roasts, are actually really easy. You just sort of season it, then sear it on all sides, and then you stick it in the oven with a meat thermometer until it reaches the temperature you want. So that's actually pretty easy. This one, same thing. I just seasoned it. I put it under the broiler each side to sear it, and then which wasn't as good as barbecue, I have to say, and then just roasted it until the meat thermometer said it was done. So yeah, so it's relatively straightforward. Rebecca says Kirk made a vegan roast. mashed potatoes, etc. And our sisters came over for dinner. Awesome. So vegan roast, does it use like, is it like a TVP base, Rebecca? Or does it have multiple sources of vegetable protein in it? And does it have seasoning built into it, or is it just like a chunk and you season it the way you want to? Both Kim and I are trying to. Well, Kim is actually experimenting with eating one meal a day now, which she's done some fasting in the past, and so now she feels she can do that, which is she's actually finding it's workable for her. It's early days, and I'm finding that since transition, my metabolism isn't nearly as fast as it used to be, so I have to watch it as far as how much I eat. But on Easter Sunday, all bets were off. We ate flesh, tons of flesh. We ate tons of dessert. Yeah, and yeah, and on Monday I didn't eat again till like 2 o'clock in the afternoon because it was just so happily overfed. So yeah, that's good every once in a while, and then it's good not to do it very often. So yeah, when I was younger, when I was starting to learn how to cook, I avoided like making roasts and stuff like that. I thought, oh, that's hard, not and it's such a big commitment, and it's like, so I would do like stir fry type things and so on. And actually, once I sort of figured out how to do like roast chicken, roast whatever, it's like, wow, this is actually easier than so many things. And so, Rebecca, is it the same for the vegan roasts? Is it kind of like season it and chuck it in until it's cooked? I guess it doesn't. It probably doesn't have the same sort of health requirement for a minimum temperature, but you probably want it hot, right? Obviously. So you probably commented about it. Most pre-made roasts are either soy tofu or seitan. Yeah, I've heard of seitan and had it once or twice. It sounds amazing. It's pretty cool. This one was mostly seitan, gluten, I think. It comes seasoned with stuffing. Oh, cool. And gravy. Sometimes he makes his own seitan or nut-based roast. Wow. That's very cool. I made Kim for Christmas dinner. I made her some because she can't eat wheat or so on. So I made her brownies using almond flour. Which wow, when you make something that uses almond flour, the calories go through the roof, right? Because it's nut rather than grain, but wow, it's delicious. So I made her brownies, and she had half of them at Christmas, and then I put the rest in the freezer. And yes, on Thanksgiving, I keep calling Easter Thanksgiving, guys. Early onset dementia, watch out. On Easter, she had the rest of it, which was great. She had completely forgotten that I put it in the freezer for her, so it was a treat. it's so disheartening looking over at my monitor and seeing what you guys are seeing when I'm looking at these like super energetic colors. So I'm sorry, guys. I don't know why it's like that, but so I'm trying a couple of ideas here. I'm not sure I'll do either of them, but just seeing what the different options look like. So I mean, if I really wanted to position this properly, which I may want to, what I would do is I would use this. I'd put this down temporarily and put these pieces into it and then remove it so it's they're in the right place. So if I decide that this is an idea worth pursuing, that is what I'll do. But the jury's still out on whether it's a good idea or not. We'll see. This is one of those things where it behooves you not to lose your little pieces. I'm not sure how well I'm doing with this, but anyway, there we go. Without the figure, this one kind of loses it, doesn't it? Whereas if I had the stripes and I had the figure, so it might be a case of like cutting the figure out somehow. But other than that, excuse me, other than that, I kind of like these shapes and the colors coming through rather than a lot of color. So have to think about that. The other thing I could try, and I might try this anyway, is like a combination of, this is kind of like positive, negative. One side gets one thing, the other side gets the other. The other option is doing some kind of hybrid that maybe put some things in maybe offset places, which might be kind of fun, or overlapping in unexpected ways. That might actually be more interesting, like having some of the color come through, but have some of these chunks in a little out of kilter, but in a fun way, hopefully fun way. We'll see whether it's a fun way. All right, I have to cut out a second one because I'm having this idea that it would be cool to have two of these, right? One that is just this way and the other one that's upside down and just the white. So I'm going to do that because it looks like a cool idea. I'm also going to cut out see, if I were to cut out all the whites, they would be in a million pieces, right? Because of the crosswalk. But if I leave the crosswalk the way it is, and then I cut out all the other blacks, it can work. And I just realized I missed one. It'll hold together, in other words. It's not that the other idea couldn't work. It's just be a lot more work to keep it under control as a million pieces, right? So sometimes that's worth it, and sometimes it isn't. And for something I'm doing in this context, yeah, it's not worth it. But I'll often come up with ideas that take a ton of work, and I think, well, yeah, this is going to take a lot of work, but it'll be worth it, right? I think I test something and I see, oh yeah, that's a good idea. That's going to be a lot of work. All right, well, I'm up for it, so I'm going to go for it. So it's just a call you make as you go along, right? You know, I know there are quite a few artists, whether they're demonstrating online like this or whether they're demonstrating at a in person, who figure out exactly how they're going to do it. Right? They've got their steps figured out, and they know what they're going to arrive at the end, and and that's never been me, because I mean, I suppose I could do that, that sort of more cooking show like thing, but I'm more interested in like creative opportunities. Um, but it means that my demos are sometimes, it's like, well, this was interesting, but it didn't go anywhere. So I usually, like, I gave a few, 2 or 3 last term, in-person demos. And actually one of them that I did for Scarborough Artist Guild, I got something underway, a decollage project that I then finished at home and then sent them so that they could see where it finally went, and it worked out reasonably well. But sometimes it's just like, see, isn't this a great process? But this one isn't working yet, but I think in many respects that is a more realistic. Maybe some people would say, yeah, it's because you don't plan it ahead, Kat. You don't have it all figured out ahead of time. And I would say, yeah, that's true. But I stay open to possibilities. And I think there's an important aspect when we're to show other artists who are looking to someone like me or Kim for inspiration, that creativity is a process, right? And that you don't necessarily know, nor should you know, how it's going to work out. You should, so instead of modeling a process toward a product, we tend to model a process and creative thinking, creative exploration, and I think that that's more real for us. So it depends on. It also really depends on the nature of what kind of work you like to make as either an instructor or a student or as an artist, right? I think most of us as artists, we're fortunate if we get sort of a reasonable number of successes. reasonable percentage, I think, is actually a better way of putting it, right? I don't know, like it depends on how high the standard is for, like, probably yeah, I think that I have a pretty high batting rate for some of the work that I've been doing lately because I've been doing it more frequently. So I sort of have it somewhat dialed in. But even then, that means maybe like 40 or 50% of it works out well enough that it's worth sharing. But if we're talking about what kind of work do you think is like really good work, then it might be 1 in 20, 1 in 50, right? And that's just the nature of creativity. And we all have different processes, different ways of thinking. There are some artists who I don't know how they do it, but well, I don't think there are that many that are like this, but that if you have a very sort of structured process, then maybe every painting you do is, or every piece of art you do, is worth showing, right? So, but I think the higher the more you're risking, the more chance you're going to fail. And failing, I think, is just a stepping stone to success. So I actually don't think of it as failing. It's that thing that if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. So, I mean, if you're really hoping, if you really need something to work out, you tend to go more conservative, right? And in certain circumstances, that is absolutely fine. Like if you are on a deadline, you need something to work, right? So, so you will go with a more conservative approach, something that you've done before, something that you know is going to work. And whereas if you're trying new things, of course, they are not going to work out. But you may learn something really exciting, right? So I think it's kind of we all have a different tolerance for that, working when things don't work out, right? And it's what we tell ourselves as artists, whether if we're telling ourselves like that every time something doesn't work out, that's a failure, well, then we're more likely to play it safe, right? Whereas if we're saying, I don't care if this works out or not, but I have the feeling that this is going to be an interesting thing to try, right? This might work, and I'll try it, is one of the quotes that I put up on my in my classrooms, because nothing happens unless you try things, right? So I was listening to, I guess I was overhearing something Kim was watching, and it wasn't art-based, but it was process-based. I would think it was a YouTube video she was watching, and I think it was about decluttering. And what the person was saying was that inspiration, you don't wait for inspiration. Inspiration happens because you start doing something and then you get inspired. And I'm a firm believer in that as far as creativity goes, right? There are lots of Picasso quotes out there, some of which Kim and I say, oh, we don't want to ever hear that one again. But the one I really love about that Picasso said was, inspiration will find you if it finds you working. And this idea of like, if you're working, you're sort of saying to the universe, here I am, I'm committing to making art. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm working on it. And the universe says, oh, that's good. How about this? Have you thought about this? What about that? Whereas if you're like, universe, I need some inspiration, it's the universe says like, universe says, well, show me you want it, right? So, yeah. The American artist Chuck Close is famous for saying, saying inspiration is for amateurs. And all he means is that an amateur will often wait for inspiration before they start working. And I certainly did when I was starting out. And whereas a professional goes to work and the inspiration comes when it comes, right? And it usually comes as a product of doing the work rather than the other way around. So I've been corresponding with an artist who is a writer, I think, first and foremost, and she I've never met her actually. She asked me some questions on Instagram because she's going to be at the Artist Project, and she makes some beautiful artwork as well. But I think writing is her main thing. And so she decided that she was going to commit to the Artist Project. So she's had a bunch of questions for me about it. I think she found something I wrote about it online about my process of being, or my experience of being at the Artist Project, and she liked it. So yeah, so we've ended up having this long correspondence, and I had a point to this, and I've lost it. I started cutting again. No, it's not that. It was something related to this, but I've lost it. All right, so I've cut this out a second time because I thought, now this one's white and it's white, so it might not work, but it still might be interesting to have them sort of, they're both white, but it's still kind of interesting. Maybe it should be more offset. And I've got all these pieces now. All right. So if you're wondering, I am going to go a little longer. It's up to you if you want to stay with me or not. Totally don't have to, but I kind of feel a bit gypped because I got started, had those tech issues. So just glancing over to see whether it still seems to be working. That's good. And I'll check in with your comments in a minute. I know I haven't done that in a while, so just give me a sec. All right, the symmetry is kind of fun, but it's also maybe not interesting enough. But what about like what about? All right, I guess it doesn't work like that because it wants to go like this. And maybe not as interesting as I thought it was going to be, which is too bad. I'm sure I'll figure out something interesting. All right, I think this is the basic premise. The idea of like, do I like them on the other colors though? Oh, I messed it up. Gotta go the other way. No, I think I like it the other way actually. So. And I think what that is, like, the red is a bit darker. I mean, it's quite dark on your screen, but for me, it's a little less so. But having the black on the green, black and white on the green, and the white holds its own on this. Now I am going to add other pieces. I'm gonna try things like slipping them underneath like this, and play some of the negative pieces in places where they didn't belong and see how that goes. But let's see what you guys are saying. So Rebecca says she's not interested in step-by-step demos because I can learn or figure out that stuff on my own. Yeah, exactly. I want to see how you approach an idea or problem. That is where the real learning is for me. Well, I'm glad you find that, Rebecca, because I agree totally. Not everyone wants that. Often beginners are looking for the sort of quote unquote recipe. So, and truth be told, when you're starting out, if you're looking for, I want to be able to draw a camel, right? Then step by step is very helpful, or certain skills are very helpful. But yeah, I think once you reach a certain point, you want artistic thinking, right? So yeah, I'm glad. That's awesome. Jana says, how do you produce pieces to a deadline? The artist project. I'll just read Lisa's comment, then I'll come back to yours, Janice. Lisa says, I've watched a lot of how-tos, but now that I know the technical stuff, I'm trying to experiment on my own. Exactly, because I think, experiments are, I think, the best way to learn, right? Because it's, what about this? Well, best way to find out what about that is to try it, right? And then you end up with something that maybe doesn't work, right? But maybe it doesn't work, so you try it again, or it doesn't work, but you find something more interesting or better or different. And so you can end up with this like rich branching, right? Like I first idea was I'm going to try to do that thing over there, but then it ends up going this way. And so then you have two options, right? Oh, I'll try something else to do what I was doing again, and then it goes there. And then eventually you end up with these myriad options, right? Which can be overwhelming, but it also can be just like so exciting, right? Finding all these different avenues for exploration. So I'm just going to take a little drink, and then I'm going to talk about sadly something that I know a lot about, which is working to deadlines. Unless I have a deadline, I don't get enough work done. And it's a sad outgrowth of being a graphic designer for many, many years, when I went to work because work was needed, right? And so there was like, especially once I was in the work, like after school, and I was into school, we had deadlines for projects, but yeah, once we were graphic designers, Kim and I were both graphic designers for many years, and the deadlines came thick and fast. So you get very good at doing certain things. You get used to thinking about how to get something done in time. You will often have to go with things you know how to do rather than experiments, which is one of the downsides. So, the closer you are to the deadline, the more you're going to play it safe if you're still in the creative mode, right? If you're doing execution, then that's a different story. But I also find that I need the, I wish it weren't true, but I thrive now because of those many years of working on deadlines. I thrive on the pressure. I find the pressure makes me work more in a more focused manner. So yeah, so I like this year for the artist project, I want to have 20 odd new pieces around that number, because I'm not going to make that many prints. I'm making quite a few prints. I make 8 large ones and 6 small ones for my booth, but I also print a book. I have a book printed that has around 20 pieces in it. So yeah, so I realized like a month and a half ago that I hadn't made that much in the second half of last year that I could actually use. And it was like, oh no, right? Because I was busy, like doing shows and doing other things. And so then it was like, okay, I really have to light a fire under my bum to get some stuff done. So it was fun because I had to spend a lot of time at it. So would I have liked a bit more time? Of course. Should I have started earlier? Of course. But on the plus side, right, I get to be really focused, right? It allows me to like really work on the energy. Like when you're working several hours a day on art, and then the next day the same thing, you don't the scent never the scent on the trail never gets cold, right? You come back and it's right. All right, that's where I was. Wanted to try this. Wanted to try that. Do right. Whereas, and there's lots of good things about working a little bit each week or even each day, which I can't seem to do unless I have a deadline. But the more space between your bouts of work, the more you have to like reload it into your brain, right? So when I'm working intensively on a deadline, it's always like loaded into my brain. And I think I was talking about odds earlier for like what are your creative odds for getting things done? I feel that increases my odds for sure, because I'm hot, right? I don't mean hot, but like but I am like I'm in the zone more often than not. So that has real benefits. So. But usually, further to that, like the starting out is always tough if you've been away from it for a while. So I try to cut myself as much slack as possible, not to worry too much, to say, just work on it. It'll come. Yeah, you feel rusty. Yeah, you wish you had been doing more than you have, but it will come. Just keep working. Just keep working faith, right? So that I think is that's important. All right, so what am I doing here? I'm looking like I really like this overlap, the white under underneath the white and the black, and I'm looking at the negative shapes that I'm creating by moving these pieces around. And I kind of feel these chunks may be too similar, but if I tuck a bunch of this one underneath, maybe not so much. Except really the only, yeah, I think I'm going to try a medium-sized one down there. It's going the same direction, though. I kind of like something that went the opposite direction. And that's a similar size chunk as well, isn't it? These triangles are maybe a bit smaller. That's good. All right, I kind of like that. And so that's going to be the premise, and then or the basis, what I should say is the basis of the bones. And now, now what I'm going to do is glue it down as like that, and then see about adding more. So, because there's only so much you can do before like with collage, when do you commit is always such a challenge, right? Because if you end up with like a million pieces without having committed, it's like, oh my God, don't sneeze, or you just can't. You just won't be able to put it back together the way you thought you could anyway. So, I mean, you can. If you take a photograph, you have a piece, like if you arrange something very carefully, many different layers, positions or whatever, and it's like, okay, you take a picture of it and then you work from the picture very diligently, you can recreate it. But for me, that sounds like more work than I'm up for. So I tend to decide, I sort of give myself, I say at some point earlier than you might like, I'm talking to myself. I want you to commit to gluing something down, a few pieces down, and then the rest of it is just going to happen with those glued down. So, and I've found that that works for me. What doesn't work for me is if I lose track of which way it's supposed to go. I'm walking and chewing gum here. Never a good idea. Looks like these pieces are slightly different sizes than I would have thought, but anyway. All right, I'm just going to go with it. I'll trim it. Sometimes I end up with a little glue smear. I try not to, but it's inevitable. And that's one of the reasons why I love doing the prints. One of the many reasons is if I get little flaws, I can digitally remove them for the prints, which is a nice thing to. Of course, I'm careful. Of course, I try and craft collages. Of course, the originals can be interesting, but having that sort of backup, knowing that you can do some minor corrections if you like the collage, but it's got a blob of glue where you didn't want it, or so on. You can do a little tweaking. And so that right there, I don't, generally speaking, I want my collage prints to look like they're my collages, right? So I get the collage as good as I can. I don't work on the basis, and not that there's anything wrong with this, but I don't work on the basis like, okay, I've got it that far, I'll scan it now, and then I'll do a whole bunch of work on it digitally. you can do that. And I've done that for illustrations. And it can be good because digital, you can undo, you have more flexibility in some respects. But generally speaking, for my collages, my prints, the print is the work. So the collage is a stepping stone, but I still want the print to feel mostly like it's a handmade collage. So even if I do some minor adjustments digitally, I try and keep them to that, like taking specks off or maybe changing a color somewhat. Like sometimes it's like, yeah, that scanned is not the color, kind of like what we're looking at on the screen, right? This lime green that doesn't look lime green. So I do make adjustments, but fewer than some people might think. All right, so I've got these sort of basic bones in, and now I'm going to look at my other bits and see whether it's interesting to bring a few others in. I kind of feel like what's there is really kind of nice. So it's going to have to be something I often grapple with is my predilection for minimalist composition and also my interest artistically in being able to have things to play with. To have a more complex, meaty problem to work with. And so I have that kind of thing. It's not a thing, that kind of tug of war between, is that, I like the less is more, but I also like the more is more. So I think it's healthy to have some of both, and then I go back and forth. So all right, so my timer just went off, but as I said, I'm going to go a little overtime because of the tech problems I had to get started. So if you have to leave, I completely understand. If you have a birthday party to organize or finish getting ready for, whatever. Thank you for joining us. Our next one is in 2 weeks' time, back on Monday, which I think, let me just check the calendar. Our next one is on the 5th of May, and so the theme is Cinco de Mayo, which is a sort of a national holiday in Mexico. I think tied to the revolution originally, but it's now more of a it's kind of become commercialized, and so it's kind of like day to eat Mexican food kind of thing outside of Mexico. But I just fell on the 5th of May, so I thought we'd use that theme. So that's on Monday, 2:00 in just under 2 weeks' time, because it's back on a Monday. So we will see you then, hopefully. But if you want to stay with me, if you don't have to be anywhere, then feel free. I'm going to stay here for another at least 10 minutes, maybe 15. So just playing with my shapes. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? As I was saying, I think this is already kind of nice. I feel like a third small shape would be beneficial somewhere, a black shape. A black sheep, a black shape. But that said, that's not a bad spot right there. But I think what I'm going to do is then switch my attention to the other side and get it started, and then come back to this one. So, because that's another thing. So, Janice had been asking about working on deadlines, and so when I'm working on deadlines, I try to take as many bouts of work with breaks in between as possible. So those breaks can come in two different forms. Like I will work on one collage for a while, and I'll work until I'm unsure, and then I'll say, okay, I need to work on something else, put it aside, start something else, or continue something else that I started, and then I come back to it, see it with fresh eyes. So that's one way, is just switching up between a few different pieces. I usually have 3 or 4 on the go at any one time. And then the other thing is I will take like mealtime breaks, workout breaks, not because they don't need to be like hugely long, but the more pressure you're under, the more you need breaks, and the more intensively you're working, the more time you need to see things, the more opportunities, that's it, the more opportunities you need to see things with fresh eyes, right? So if I work on it for an hour, then I work on that other collage for an hour, then I go have dinner, then I come back and I look at those and it's like, okay, now I know what to do. I'll do the next thing. Or no, I'm still unsure, so I'll start a third one or work on the second one, and then I'll do that for 2 or 3 hours. Then I'll walk around the block, get a little, clear my head, then come back. Oh, now I see what I need to do, right? That's, I think, a key thing that people often think, I'm not going to stop until it's done, right? And if you're under pressure, you actually need to stop more often so that you see it with fresh eyes more often, right? So that it helps you it accelerates the process, right? If you only see it with fresh eyes when you come in at the beginning of each day, because you're working like really intensively, then it's different, right? But if you're sort of like, okay, I saw it, now I'm seeing it again later that day, now I'm seeing it in the evening, but you've sort of gone away from it, come back to it, gone away from it, come back to it, whether it's working on something else or gone away from the studio, then you get more hits of that sort of fresh eyes insight, or the insight that fresh eyes give you. All right, blah, I've been yakorama. All right, I'm going to check in with comments, and then I'm going to spend a few minutes on this side. So let's see. Janice says, thanks for the great explanations, reprocess. I think I've gotten a little rusty, so we'll try to start again. Yeah, you know what? And when you're starting again, Janice, if you're still with us, a couple of things really matter, I think, when you've been away from it. One is just like reduce your expectations. Really, and all that is, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have standards as an artist. We all do, right? But when you're starting out and when you've been away from it for a while, you just say, like what I tell myself in that situation is, making art's better than not making art. I'm just going to make some bad art, because it's like, oh, well, I can do that, right? It's like, if I have to make a masterpiece now, I'm going to leave the studio. But if I just have to make some bad art, I can do that, right? And really, all it does is just frees you up mentally, right? Because, yeah, maybe the first piece or 2 or 3 are bad, but they're going to start getting better because you're working, right? So, and then the other thing is, give yourself emotional supports that make it feel fun, right? Like bring your favorite drink, put on your favorite music. You might not need those after you've got going, but do whatever it does that gives you an on-ramp of fun, right? Like if it's like, oh, I feel like I'm having to go back to the studio, whip, snap, right? Or that's no good. But if it's like, oh, I'm going to go to my studio, I got a nice cup of fresh coffee, a little snack, I'm going to put on my favorite music, and suddenly it's like, this is great, And then next thing you know, the coffee's gone cold, the music's stopped playing, and your head is right into the game, right? So All right, so this one is going to be positioned. Well, it's going to be positioned here, and I'm thinking that for this piece, I'm going to cut the characters out. Now, they were done as stencils, but the fine, of course, they're so fine because the Japanese are. The little things in between the pieces are so fine. Wow. I might have to make them a little thicker than that just to work as a collage. Japanese craftsmanship, no matter what sort of craftsmanship we're talking about, is generally at a very high standard, right? So where we have road stencils that have, I forget what they call the, it was on the tip of my tongue, but I've forgotten what it's called. Bridges, I think they're called. The little spaces that mean a stencil doesn't all fall apart. In North America, road stencils or whatever, they'd be huge. Those things here, they're like super fine, because, of course, they are, because Japanese are very precise, right? Of course, not every Japanese person is, right? But it is a culturally care and precision are sort of national points of pride, I think. So, like kids in Asia, not just Japan, but I think especially Japan, learn to use like sharp knives and scissors when they're like 3 years old, because they get trained and they know, and people know there that they're up to it. They can learn it. They can be taught it, right? Whereas here, everything is all about like, oh, you're too young to do that. You're going to hurt yourself, right? Which isn't true. But it also depends on the nature of the people who are doing it, right? Sadly, in North America, we have valued sort of, we've let kids be, I'm just trying to figure out a way to put it, act out or be brattier, or they haven't been rewarded for being playing nicely together, being careful. So, of course, then, yeah, if you did hand some 3-year-olds or kindergarten or junior kindergarten kids in North America a bunch of sharp tools, you would need to be a good teacher to set that up to work. I think you could, but it would take some work. Whereas in Asia, like respect for your elders and care and politeness are just really, really, really important. So it makes sense that things like this would be. I am so off on a tangent. All that from cutting out a road stencil, a Japanese road stencil. And I bet that it's still going to fall apart anyway, because it's too small for my my knife skills. If it were 2 or 3 times this size, it'd definitely be easier. But these things are like, well, the one that's closest is a little over a centimeter. The other one's less than a centimeter, so pretty small. So what do you guys think is your collage superpower? I think mine, I think I have a couple, but I like the most fundamental, I think, is my knife skills, like in terms of just like executing work. And I think that comes from making models when I was younger, and certain things in graphic arts you needed to be able to cut with a knife, so that came from there. So so in terms of just like a tangible skill, I think my use of a knife is one of the things that helps my work be what it is. And then the other thing that's more about knowledge and training rather than a physical skill is, not that you don't train physical skills, but is my design background, because I think it helps me make decisions that help things look the way I like, right? I can sort of not that I can still be plenty paralyzed by deciding between things, but sort of knowing some design principles so that you can recognize something that looks good, or what to do when something doesn't look good, is really helpful, I found. So what do you guys think your sort of main gift for your collaging is? What helps your collage look like your collage? You know, everyone's got different backgrounds and brings different ideas. Some of us are colorists. Some of us have like really strong technical skills. Some of us have like something that I think is a weakness for me is sort of emotional content and narrative content. I wish that my work had more emotional content, but for instance, I would say that with Kim, that's one of her superpowers for her work. So I can see I'm getting towards the end of my time window, so I'm just going to get this one last character cut out, and then I'll wrap up. So that'll give you time, if you're still with us, to let us know what you think what makes your collage what it is. Some of us are great researchers, like we can find great images online or elsewhere, and that's very important, right, for collage, for certain kinds of collage. So it just depends on who we are. I also think that I think for a lot of people who don't start out with collage but have done other things, that can be those can be superpowers. Like if you have developed a bunch of like color and composition and so on skills working with photography or drawing or painting, any of those things, it's transferable over to collage too. So those sort of basic visual literacy kinds of things. So, all right, I am going to leave it at that for now. yet another time when Kat hasn't got very far, but I've had technical issues and I have had lots to say, which hopefully, if you're working away on in your own studio, that helps. That keeps you company. All right, there we go. And I'll just see what any last comments from people. Switch the glasses so I can read the screen. All right, I'm just trying to figure out where. Lisa says, I've watched a lot of, oh, yeah, okay, we've got to that. Lisa says, I totally agree. Fresh eyes make a huge difference. Yeah, for sure. It's, I think it's really important. I think it's, people don't value it enough. In my classes, I will sometimes, like when I'm in person, I'll wander around and I'll see someone like fussing or struggling, and I'll say, stop. You just like stop, do something else. If you keep working on it, you're going to finish it, and not in a good way, right? Because that's often the motivation is they want to finish something, right? So, but you can't force it. You can, and you can ruin it, right? So, yeah. Lisa says, I'm very new to making art, so very unsure about process. I have no formal training. Yeah, and that, like, formal training is really important. And you can get that by taking some fundamental courses at a place like Toronto School of Art, or continuing ed, or like Nielsen Park Creative Center, Visual Arts Mississauga community centers. Ask some of your artist friends where they take courses, because it really helps, right? It's called foundational for a reason. So Lisa says, I have a good color sense. Yeah, exactly. Janice says, so helpful. So I'm glad. Thank you, Janice. Rebecca says, it's interesting because, sorry, I'm not sure. Maybe I should switch to my other glasses. When I switch away, all right. Sorry, guys. Rebecca says, it's interesting because teaching in Korea, I saw little kids sharpening pencils with knives, right? But I told those same kids to draw a cow, and I would get 30 identical cows. Yeah, exactly. So, and that's one of those fundamental, interesting, paradoxical things, right? Is there is a right way to do things in Asia, right? And they are so strong collectively, but as far as individualism, which has many benefits and it also has many drawbacks, just like collectivism, right? Yeah, it's so interesting, those splits, right? Like they are stereotypical, but like work ethic, the greater good, all of that is very strong in Asia, whereas so individual expression and creativity is more of a struggle. It exists. There are plenty of artists in Asia too, but in terms of, but it isn't as strong. Whereas here it's strong, but we also have people just being self-centered idiots, right? We don't have to look very far to find that in our culture. So yeah. Rebecca says, I always start with meaning, right? That is both a strength and a weakness. Everything is a strength and weakness. There are always two sides to each thing, right? So meaning is, I think, can be a real superpower, So I think it allows your work to connect to people who don't necessarily understand art, but they understand meaning, right? If there are clues to concepts and visual and ideas, right, then people are going to get a lot out of it. And if they're that way inclined, right? If they're just looking for superficial, then of course they're not going to get it, right? But so yeah, I kind of feel like I have good chops for aesthetic things, but not so much for meaning and emotional things. And so it dictates the nature of my work, and it's both strength and weakness. So Janice says, love finding vintage images online. I thinking of your work and thinking that is exactly right. Love finding images online and creating various scenarios, right? So narrative, right? With figuring out like how to tell an interesting story, whether it's sort of a fiction that is coming from the juxtaposition of things or whatever. Just have to get around to putting them on paper. Yeah. You know what? Timer. Set a timer. Make some work. Say gather a few materials and then set a timer for what you think is actually too short an amount of time, and then tell yourself you have to have the collage done by then. Even if the timer goes and you're not quite done, it puts this pressure on you that to commit to make things. If it doesn't work, you just make another one, right? But it lets you. So we were talking about deadlines earlier. There's a way in which deadlines can help you, right? They can help you make the work. They can help you commit to it. And it's going to get better even if the first few you do that way are just like, I don't have enough time. This is too fast. It's like, okay, well, I just have to slap it down. And then the next time it's like, sometimes when I teach courses and we work with like a certain amount of time, like 5 minutes. We're going to do 5-minute collages. And that's not enough time, right? The first one, everyone struggles. By the second or third, they're cooking, right? They're able to do it. So because they get warmed up and then it's just becomes you adjust, right? One of our superpowers as humans is we can adjust to things, right? It can go negative ways, but it can also go positive ways too. So yeah. Janice says, love that idea. Awesome. Well, it's almost 4:00, so this has been a long collage jam, so I should probably wrap it up. But thank you so much for hanging out with me, guys. And I will see you in a fortnight. And if you want some artist project tickets, be sure to come next week in 2 weeks. And thank God the tech held out after the initial difficulties, so that's good. As Rebecca would say, make sure you give the video a like so that other people can find us. And you're very welcome, Lisa. Thank you, guys. Not very many people here, but you guys were active, which is awesome, and I really appreciate it. So it's been nice hanging out. And yeah, if you finish collages, post them in our Virtual Collage Jam group on Facebook. And Kim says hi. I forgot. Yeah. Yeah, I could hear your voice in my head, Rebecca. So, but oftentimes I forget. So thank you. All right, guys. See you in a couple of weeks. Take care.